Hey HTDA and welcome back to Ixion. I'm not gonna lie, this is future me and this is going to be the most tricky part of the game I have played so far. Something with a cloud, something about having to get our ship through it and not having everyone die in the process while we are trying to optimize the shit out of it. I do think I got a pretty nice solution to kind of game the system, so have a lot of fun hopefully in this episode figuring the mechanics of this particular episode out along with me. I didn't use any spoilers, so this is just me playing as I play the game, basically trying to figure things out. So I'm hoping you enjoy that. Okay, so let's see. Other than just exploring the immediate things around us, we're going to have to find a way to get across this giant piece of a storm, because I'm pretty sure this thing was moving, and if this is actually going to move from this side to that side, we're going to have to fly the Tycoon at some point right through it, because by the looks of it, we can't go around. And you can't just freely move this thing for some reason. You do have to set the destination, so you need somewhere to fly to. Now, the good thing is we did discover this habitation sector wreckage over here. So as soon as this is out of the storm, assuming again that it's going to move in that direction, we could fly there. That's just going to take us a lot of time, and currently our batteries, as you can see, are not really, well, some of them are not existent, but some of them are not charging if we do have them. That's because we have a very tiny surplus of power. Now, it's not a problem right now, but it is going to be a problem really soon. So let's see what we can do in order to mitigate that. So as I mentioned last time, we're working on the adjustable panel orientation, which is going to boost our power just a tiny little bit. And afterwards, I'm probably going to take the self-cleaning systems just to make sure that things don't break down as we're moving through the storm. They might still break down, but at least it's a 50% lower chance of that actually occurring. Then third, I'm not entirely sure yet what to go for. We might increase the solar panel production just a little bit more. Might as well just clear this up. Or we might do other stuff. I actually don't know. We could actually try and speed up the ship itself. So there's no upgrades that we can get here just yet, but we can take less damage from impacts whilst moving, 10% lower chance, things like that. But in order to get these, we'll need to upgrade the EVA airlocks. Let's see what we have over here. Construction speed, repair efficiency, all of that is not particularly useful because we have plenty of EVA airlocks to begin with. So the alternative would be to just have the Tycoon moving faster. The faster we get through stuff, the less damage we take along the way. Now, aside from just upgrading our solar panels, we do need more solar panels. So I'm gonna go and switch my waste centers to actually produce polymer. This is a huge boost in polymer production, so don't underestimate how much this is. 2 per cycle. Well, the actual polymer factory itself only produces 1 per cycle. So yeah, that's a definite upgrade. I'm actually wondering if we should place another polymer factory over here in the corner or something just for now. Honestly, I don't think we need to, because we do have, well, we're producing 5 polymer per cycle now, and that's a pretty high rate, and we do have a good stash of those to begin with. I'm not going to queue up the solar panels themselves just yet, because in the meanwhile, I do want to keep building some of these probes in order to hopefully find some more places that we can fly the Tycoon to. For whatever reason, the destinations we have now don't seem to be suitable. Speaking of exploring, we found a trail of yellow particles and traced it to the vacuum to another section of the Atamanki wreckage. It appears to have been at least partially spared from the destruction we have seen elsewhere. The particles came from the crushed and damaged flowers of yellow squash. A bed of these frozen plants surround a large bronze sculpture, a depiction of Earth crowned with laurels. Many messages have been left near the sculpture, railing against the perceived enemies of humanity, Dolos and the Estengenites. A plaque at its base reads, "Against the cynicism that kills hope, against the madness which precipitates hell, to perpetuate the genius of humanity and the memory of our life on Earth." There's a compartment beneath the plaque in which a sealed time capsule was found. It seems possible it could be opened. Oh, you know what we're going to do. We are going to open the time capsule. Well, we opened the capsule, and in there were toys and other everyday items, and it's a long story, but basically there's a little bit of background of what happened once we destroyed the moon. Everything fell apart and everyone started blaming each other, with the Etemenanki basically being an arc that was supposed to save humanity. that's all nice and all, but the main thing for us right now is that we got an upgrade for the waste treatment center that I don't know what it does, but we do get 45 signs along with it, so let's find out. In the meanwhile, let's also explore the industrial zone just to see if we can find some more upgrades right there, because this seems to be one of those chapters where you get a lot of fun upgrades for exploring everything, and so far I'm really enjoying that. Okay, so not super useful at the moment because we can't actually research it just yet, but we can reduce the power cost of the waste center by 5. And honestly, since we have 2 of those, this is actually going to save us 10 power, which for someone who's currently struggling with the power requirements is very useful. In order to do that, we would need to research the deoxidized contacts for the steel mill, so let's check that one out. And one is over here. And that's actually also power reducing. It's actually interesting. I didn't realize until now that we had so many options available to reduce power, which we might want to look into as well. But in order to do this, we would need to first research the waste heat recovery. Honestly, this is 6 power by itself, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we can also improve the efficiency of our steel mills. Again, I just want to have all of these upgrades, but we need to work at one thing at a time. Well, it seems there wasn't that much of interest in the industrial zone itself because basically everything is fallen apart, but still we got 20 signs out of that, so still worth the effort. Okay, so let's research the next tier of batteries so that we can get that going, and like we've discussed before, let's then start working on a faster moving tycoon because again I think we're going to need all the speed we can get in order to get through that storm. And meanwhile, at the ruins of the reactors, we can also investigate the thrusters. Seems very fitting considering we're just trying to upgrade ours, so let's go for that first. After that, we'll also take care of the engine room and the engine supervision area, so seems a lot of interesting stuff here potentially, but thrusters first. Okay, so these larger batteries are, well, larger, but they should also be a lot more efficient. So let's go building a few of those around. They do cost electronics, which I currently don't have a massive amount of, so that we definitely need to like take it easy on building these, but they store 300 power compared to only the 100 power of the tier 1. So they're more expensive, but they are definitely a lot more effective in doing their job. And well, speaking of electronics, this is going to be very helpful because we just found some in the ruins of the resource center that we were just, well, exploring. Seems to be have some fighting going on, but nothing really of interest. But this is going to be very, very helpful. There's nothing else to do here, so we're going to leave the wreckage. Okay, this is definitely something worth considering because indeed everything seems to be moving. Okay, let's pause because I definitely do not want my ships to fly through there if we don't need to. But since this just happened while we were doing an event, I'm just guessing, but it seems to be triggered by, well, exploring said events. So we might want to hold off at actually, well, exploring anything else until we're ready to deal with this thing moving all the way across all of our precious resources. It does seem, however, that I was right, at least in some sense, because, well, these things are definitely closer to the edge of our explored territory. I am a little bit worried now because these are all very precious resources, so I definitely don't want to speed up exploring any further events if I don't have to. So we made the Tycoon a little bit faster now, but I'm actually thinking maybe we should invest in the Intelligent Lab next. This improves the science output of our lab. I was initially under the impression I could build more than one, but I can't, so might as well just make sure the one we have is as efficient as we can get it. And this will actually almost double the production of science that we currently have. So it's now 3 per 5 cycles, and it would put it to a 1-to-1 ratio. And after that, actually, we could even take it up further and put it to 5 to 3, although we would need the high-risk experimentation field first, and that requires a lot of other upgrades. So for now, I think we'll stick with the Intelligent Lab. That actually also unlocks some other things in other areas, so yeah, having this is going to be a win-win, I think. And now we have that, nothing else happened in the meanwhile that was worth noting. Let's start working on getting our buildings a little bit more efficient in terms of both power as well as production. I'm gonna go focus on the waste heat recovery first, probably then the oxidized contacts. This will give us 12 free power in total. I'm assuming these replace each other and don't actually stack. I'm not entirely sure about that though. If they do stack, it's even better. And then after that, we can get the self-cleaning lubricants that we unlocked, and that will again give us 10 power free of charge. So all of that is a bit of an investment in making our buildings more efficient rather than producing more. But we are being kind of bottlenecked by power at the moment. Okay, we're slowly getting there. We've built these solar panels, so now we're at a nice healthy amount of extra power, and this means our batteries are actually charging. I'm gonna set one of these waste treatment centers to, thank you, to electronics, so that we're getting some more electronics coming in, because, well, honestly, this single electronics factory is not really cutting it right now. But, well, mostly due to the amount of batteries that we're trying to build, and I am building some more batteries. So we have a second one coming up over here, we have another large battery over here, and hopefully that will actually help us get all the power requirements that we need for this quest. Now I've noticed that my fusion plant is barely keeping up with the 3 crop farms that we have, so I'm just playing it safe for the moment and placing 2 temporary mushroom walls over here. For the simple reason that I have more than enough waste, as you can see, for all my waste treatment centers. So we might as well put the additional waste to use in some of these mushroom farms, just to get a little bit extra food going, just in case the crop farms can't quite keep up. These 3 should be enough to feed all the people that we have, actually a little bit more than that. Again, just playing it safe here. Speaking of the waste treatment centers, by the way, these are awesome. These are pretty much my lifeline at the moment when it comes to resources. The production speed of both the electronics, as well as the alloy at the moment. It's amazing how many resources you get when you just want them by turning these to whatever you happen to need in the moment. So yeah, definitely worth keeping a couple of these on hand. And I actually want to expand this further, well, after we completed several of the other things we're trying to do right now. Okay, and I do have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of this particular objective. We're probably going to need that power, I guess, I hope. But 5 cycles of backup power for my sectors is actually quite a lot. So as you can see, we're getting close to there. We need definitely some more power in Sector 3, and we need some more in Sector 6. But other than that, we're almost good to go. But I've been building quite a few of these batteries, and I realized I'm building the small ones. I've now switched to building the Tier 2 ones. Again, they're a lot more powerful, but it just feels like I'm filling up my sectors with batteries right now. Anyway, we'll just have to make use, I guess. Okay, and now I'm really closing getting the last sector up to 5 cycles, and I actually realized that we have a secondary thing here that we actually can't complete until we find probably something in the other sectors that we can't reach at the moment. But nonetheless, the backup power will serve its function when we're trying to yeet through the entire cloud of angry flashing lightning bolts. So the idea that I have is actually recalling all my ships, just making sure they all dock with my tycoon, and then trigger all 3 science events that I have waiting for it, because it did seem like every time I did one of these science events, this cloud starts moving, and hopefully that actually moves it a whole long way up here. And then at the same time, we can move in the opposite direction and start exploring these things. And then hopefully that does 2 things. First of all, we're on the other side of the cloud and we're safe there. And on the second thing that does is then we can explore these things, maybe move the cloud even further up and then go back and circle back and get whatever we science and stuff like that we get from these events. And then we can hopefully, there's a lot of hope going on here, but then we can hopefully build up our station a little bit further, because honestly there's a couple of things that are bothering me. We are barely keeping up with food. Now I did realize, and I actually didn't check that out before, but I actually realized we have upgrades in the mess hall that initially just increase the amount of members that crew members that can get a meal there, which is not too exciting. We have plenty of room for that, but the upgrades after that actually increase the food that you can supply to your crew members with a single mess hall. So 1 food actually feeds 50% more crew members. That's 50% more food generation, basically. And then the one after that is actually 100%. So you can feed twice the amount of people with the same number of food. That's really, really strong. And that's actually not that expensive to get. So if we can get maybe 2 science events from anywhere, then that pretty much solved not all our food problems, but definitely a lot of our food problems that we're currently having. And then based on that, we should be good to go to maybe expand even further, maybe actually add another crop farm or something like that. Basically do whatever we need in order to make sure we get enough food, and then we can focus back on upgrading everything else. Okay, here goes nothing. All 3 events are good to go, and I'm currently recalling all of my other ships, so not the science ships, because they need to be at the actual location in order for this to work. I'm recalling all my other ships to the Tycoon, and I'm doing that by just cancelling all the orders here. They will automatically return, and they will dock with the station, and that would mean that if this works like I am hoping it will, we can trigger all these events, dash through this cloud to the other side, and, well, we'll probably lose the science ships in the progress, but that's an acceptable loss, I think, in order to make our lives as easy as possible. We are trying to optimize things here, after all. Okay, all ships have docked. Let's start with the colony. The yellow smoke colony is up and running, and the colonists will hopefully not die through the storm, because that's the one thing I'm worried about, and that will cost me 90 colonists along with a lot of resources, but it's the risk we're taking. So 1 down, 2 to go. Meanwhile, at the other planet, we discovered the abandoned subterranean complex. We tried to scout it out, but we have some trouble getting there. We'll probably get some follow-up options, yes. Now, if you leave the planet, you will actually not be able to continue the thing later, so we might as well just take the risk and see if we can investigate, I don't know, the command center, for example, and see if this ship actually survives. It probably won't, but yeah, just leaving won't give us anything anyway, so might as well just try it. And then third of all, we have the reactor wreckage. We found some science there. And let's see, the mission data reveals the number of matches dealt to the encounter of near Saturn during the Tycoon's initial test phase. The inter-system propulsion covers many of the basic operations of the Vol engine. Okay, so basically we learned some from this. Is there a follow-up? Of course there is a follow-up. We will investigate the engine room first, and then maybe the engine supervision area later. And again, I think if we'll leave, we won't be able to return. So again, just going to queue something up and see where this leads us. And now we might have to unpause and see everyone die. Well, this is interesting. The clouds actually didn't move that much at all. Even this planet over here is still basically inside the safe territory. There's no, well, other than this one actually, there is no resource that we should avoid as far as I can tell. No, we already marked all of these up. So I'm guessing these planets were actually not part of the problem, so to speak. That means we can actually send the science ship back to collect some of the science that we're getting from our colony, and we can keep working a little bit on everything else. We're still in a good position. We could always relocate the Tycoon to the industrial zone, maybe, if that's what we need to do. But this actually encourages me to kind of farm out the science we'll get from the colony before we do anything else. Which also means all ships can be, well, flying off again to do their thing, and we can get a lot of science from these events while we're at it. And the nice thing about getting all that science is that we're actually going to be able to make a pretty large dent into our progress towards unlocking a more efficient type of food. So, yeah, win-win, I would say. Now, I actually have a feeling that it's only the wreckage events that are triggering the movement of the cloud, and that would mean that I can actually do this event over here without actually moving the cloud. Let's find out if that's true. We were able to extract an intact data drive that is still installed with the center's infrastructure. It was heavily encrypted, but it's basically a boatload of science. 100 science, that is a lot. There seems to be some mysticism and spiritual remarks in there, but other than that, we're going to be pretty happy with this, and this is definitely worth the effort. Now, we didn't actually explore everything here, so while we're at it, I might as well just continue with maybe investigating the field operations area. And yep, the cloud is not moving at all, which is awesome. While we're waiting for the science anyway, we're going to continue building some of the things in our actual facility. That means some more living space for all those people we're currently trying to get. I mean, we need 1,800 more people, so that's a lot. I'm actually thinking we could also queue up another one of these solar panels. because we know we're going to build them anyway. This is the cheapest one. It's only 225. We already have the resources for this, so might as well stock up on the power while we have the opportunity. And you know, if the theory works, why not just continue? The team identified as the area as a sealed landing bay, once home to several craft of different sizes. Signs of EKP travel were found of a type much more advanced than anything we have come across so far. The team has also found traces of organic matter and blood. Some of this was salvageable, and sample analysis revealed that several species seem to have passed through the area. All DNA samples showed some structural similarity to that of humans. Okay, we've now encountered aliens, apparently. It seems likely that this complex was used as a test site for the introduction of species into the P-38 ecosystem. The various integrity sensors of the crew's suits, as well as those of the Hope, indicate that it is necessary to repatriate the team. Interesting. Now, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that last remark that we should repatriate the team, because I'm not sure if it relates to the event or that we should leave the planet. It seems to mean the latter, but I still have the tank room to investigate, so I'm just gonna take the risk and see what's there. Of course, after I get the signs that we just unlocked from this event. That is a little trick you can use. As you can see, I am still collecting the signs, even though I still have the event pending, but the ship in orbit does seem to be collecting the signs while waiting for my decision on this event. So just in case this is something that will, for example, blow up the ship, might as well collect the signs that's already there before I take the risk of losing my ship in the progress. In the meanwhile, we now have 50% more efficient food, and in order to unlock this last one, we're going to need industrial enzymes in the crop farm. So let's go check that out. That's this one. This is the food in production increased by 30%. We already had the 20% one, so might as well do that, because I mean, more efficient farms is never a bad thing. And then we can make the food more efficient as well. So this is going to take care of pretty much all our food concerns for a very long time at this rate. Also, with the more efficient food now unlocked, I think we can safely take down the mushroom walls again and leave this space more available to something else. The main reason I want to take these down is that these have been kind of sucking up all my waste, and the waste is currently not going towards my recycling centers anymore. So might as well put them to the most use, because stocking up on raw resources is never a bad idea. Okay, so I'm actually about to trigger this event over here, and I'm actually thinking this is probably going to be the last one, because we have only one option left. And thinking back about what just happened when we triggered all three of them is that we only saw the cloud moving one space. At least I assume it was just triggered by one thing. I assumed that was from the reactor wreckage, but actually we completed this one while these two were still ongoing. So what I'm now thinking is maybe it is triggered by the completion of an entire event. If that is the case, I think we had two options left with the reactor, so we would go for this one first. Also research the remaining one, and then trigger both of those remaining events at the same time, and then hopefully getting still the effect that we were looking for with this thing moving all at once. Now, we already have a safe zone on this side, so we could already move that Menanke through here. But I want to make use of this side of the cloud as much as possible before we move to the other side, just to make sure that we're getting as much of the resources from this side as we can, especially from these events over here. On that note, let's see what we found in the reactors. The Menanke's engines were not supported by a PA or even a basic AI. Instead, crew members were constantly monitoring, adjusting and repairing the engines and the thrusters. Their living conditions were extremely precarious, and it would have seen many of those were either prisoners or rejects from the population on board the Menanke. Traces of writing were found within some dormitory cells, referring to the genetic conatus and the Astangenites. Okay, so basically our predecessors. There are records of several serious breakdowns before the final explosion. Crew members would work waist deep in coolant, some dying while performing their task within the toxic substance. Those who refused were executed by their supervisors. Okay, basically modern slavery, actually a pretty extreme form. At least we learned something useful from that. And let's also investigate the engine supervision area and unpause to see if the cloud is moving. It is not, so working like intended. And our crop research is completed, so now we can become space chefs and have super efficient food as well. And would you look at that, a completely upgraded mess hall, which now means we have double the food available for our people, or at least they need half the food compared to what we needed before. So that means we can actually feed something like 3,500 people easily with just the crop farms that we have. And that's going to cover the basics for a very long time. Now, in terms of basics, I'm actually thinking that we should now focus on upgrading a couple of other things. The steel mill and the waste treatment center. I can't really upgrade a lot of stuff here, mainly because I actually need to upgrade the steel mill first, for example, or the other related factories. If we upgrade the steel mill, we'll have the second mandatory income in terms of the base resources that we need. We need food to keep our people alive, and we need alloy to make sure our ship doesn't fall apart. So upgrading this is going to be massively useful. First of all, we'll get a more efficient alloy production, and the second one will make it even more efficient. And then once we have these two, we can actually upgrade, for example, this as well. Where is it? Over here. Making sure that we need less waste to make the same alloy. So this will basically solve all our alloy problems for a very long time as well. At least that's what I expect. So that's what we're going for next. Okie dokie, so I've withdrawn all my ships again, so all the mining ships, all the transport ships, as well as the science ship that was over here farming this science. I don't think this is going anywhere. I'm not entirely sure what will happen with the colony once this storm moves over the planet, but we'll find out, I guess, soon enough. We have these two events waiting for us. I'm guessing the people here will die. Might have been too overconfident here trying to finish that. But anyway, let's find out what's happening at the wreckage first. Then we'll trigger this one as well. Then we'll on pause, hopefully see the cloud move, and then we'll dash the Tycoon to the other side of the system, aiming for the medical district. Because it's the closest, and because I already know that if I look with my probe over here, there's a lot of base resources, such as water, iron, as well as carbon, all over here, very close to there. So that means I can immediately unlock that, have the mining ships, make sure we can actually get it back to the Tycoon, and make sure we don't starve from either water production or running out of iron. I don't really have a huge stockpile of alloy, but we do have our waste production completely focused on alloy as well, so I think we'll be fine while we bridge the gap. Famous last words, I know. Alrighty, so at the reactors, the engine supervision area was mainly occupied by those of rank. Some had the time to enter cryopods before the apparent depressurization of the area, but analysis of remaining computer infrastructure indicates that their directors were merciless towards the engine room workers. I think those were the people like working in cooler fluid and things like that. Yeah, they treated them as expendable outcasts. There are traces throughout the entire supervisory district of hacking attempts. All ship computers dedicated to the engine and reactors were compromised, preventing the Itamananki from maneuvering and causing power failures throughout the superstructure. The Planks team has managed to extract remnants of the computer protocols that were used to do this. These fragments code to an author, the BMS. Though those were the Black Mark of Society, right? Yeah. Relevant data has been sent to the Tycoon's tech lab for more detailed analysis, so we get some science and cryopods over here that we won't be able to collect. We get a new event, no idea what this is, but it doesn't sound very good. We can end this, and there's nothing else to do, so we'll finalize this event now, and that I think this means that we'll see the cloud move again, if my theory is correct. Let's see if that's actually happening. Doesn't seem to be the case just yet. That's interesting. Okay. We do have the science over here, but we haven't unpaused yet, so let's do the other event as well. Yeah. As expected, the team perished while attempting to reach the hub. Okay, so I should have taken the hint, basically, and go back to the ship. Anyway, that was my fault. That's kind of a calculated risk, but losing this ship is not the biggest deal, and a trust penalty will be fixed very quickly. Declare the team as lost in action. Spaceship lost. Well, we can build more. Oh, okay. Okay, I think the cloud moved. It's interesting, we didn't actually see that happening. But that does mean, since we're still paused, that I am going to yeet over here. Actually see if this is close. So 4.4, 4.5, that's not a big difference. 4.5, okay, so we might as well just go to the center one. We should have enough battery power to make sure we can just draw from the batteries for the entire trip, actually. So that's really nice. And we get that little cutscene. So let's see. The two ships, we have one ship that's actually docked with the Tycoon, yeah, and the other one is at the wreckage. Should we should probably see if we can get that ship to safety as well. Is this closer? No, it's not. Let's send you there. I'm guessing you're not going to survive. Although, just impost. Okay, well, that space weather event was very quick to destroy the ship. But yeah, we actually only need to travel for a little bit before we're actually already out of the cloud. And I'm guessing that if we complete all these events, the cloud will move even further and we might be able to go back to where we came from. That's very, very convenient. I would say we optimized the hell out of this. And as we just started to move through the cloud, I'm actually wondering if this is the point in time where we're going to discover what the fire station is for, because we unlocked that ages ago. And I actually have no idea. Well, it's obviously meant to put out fires. We just haven't seen a single fire occurring yet in my entire station. We've had plenty of accidents happening. I've had people overworking, people getting killed, but apparently no fire. So, that's going to be interesting. Maybe it has something to do with the pirate attacks we might be seeing soon. I don't know. If you want to know and find out along with me, make sure you join me in the next episode, because we'll be finishing our little trip through the galaxy on the other side. We'll be basically building up our entire base for the end game. I'm assuming we'll get plenty of time to spend here to do all of these things, get some more resources, hopefully move this cloud even back further, farm all these resources as well, get all this tech as well. And if we actually do get that, there's so much stuff we have to unlock still, including some of the more advanced things like the Exo fighting dome to get the morale +2 to every single sector if you also unlock the train station. We actually already have unlocked the drone bay, I just haven't gotten around to build those. There's a health center that can actually take up all the injured people from any sector, again, if we have a train station. So obviously, well, train stations might be a good thing to build soon. We have the LG farm still that might be able to produce even more food if we happen to need it. I want to focus on the water treatment center if we ever get enough waste for this to be worth it. Long story short, there's a lot of things to explore and really optimize and have a lot of fun with these sectors. We actually have two full sectors we can play around with, even though we pretty much covered all our basics. So yeah, that is going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you join me for that. If you're still here, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Leave a comment while you're at it. It really helps the algorithm. I appreciate you and I hope to see you in the next one.